We've covered color, we've covered typography, we've covered spacing. We now have all of those things systemized. We can add things, we can remove things. Let's move on to the next thing. When it comes to a lot of design systems, you will have this concept of elevation. You often want to signal that something is above something else in your interface, and sometimes color is not enough. Honestly, in most of the cases, color is not going to be enough. So iOS tends to do it with blurring the backgrounds. Google Material and Android tends to do things with shadows, since they're referencing materials in real life and how they cast shadows and how light is affecting all of that. So the approach that I often introduce is, again, shadows. So I do want to create a couple of styles for those shadows so that we can use them in our interface when needed. And to better demonstrate what we're going to need, I'm going to create a simple rectangle. I'm going to give it a fill of neutral. So like the lightest one, pure white, because that's going to allow us to see how that is going to look like in an interface. I'm going to create an auto layout out of it. I'm going to add more padding to the sides, just so that we have something like a regular background in here. And I'm going to use our lightest gray. Just for the demonstration purposes, I'm going to add an additional stroke in here so that you can easily see what's happening in here. I can even make it a little bit darker like this, and we're going to call this shadows demo. And let's create a couple of shadows that we're going to need. So you're definitely going to have some kind of a shadow that's really, really close to your background. Think of things as like an invisible z-axis that we have in Figma, where things that are closer to you are actually kind of coming out of the screen and are casting the shadow to the background. So let's do that by adding an effect. As you can see, there's kind of this default style that Figma has. Most often it's not like the prettiest thing that you're going to use. But when it comes to the objects that are really, really close to the background, the y-axis is actually going to be really small. Maybe something like 1 is going to be enough. And one thing that's a little bit tougher is figuring out what colors to use for the shadows. I'm going to use like one of these, and I'm guessing this one is 500. So I'll just grab the little bit darker one, something like 700. I don't want to use the darkest one because it's getting so close to black that it's hard to work with. But I also don't want to use some of the lighter ones because we can play with opacity. So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to make it like 10%. Just subtle enough that you can see it, but not so subtle that it overpowers everything. And this could be our lightest shadow. Let's gonna create a different one. And basically the logic that we're gonna have in here is we're gonna have two shadows. One of them is not gonna have any kind of y-axis, and it's just gonna have a subtle blur, and it's gonna be very light. While the other one is going to become bigger and bigger with all of our new levels of shadow that we're going to have, and we're also going to make it kind of move further away from this. So in here we're going to have something like, maybe we can use even 16, just like it's really there, but as we go towards these bigger blurs, we're going to lower the opacities in here. So yeah, I think this is gonna work. I'm just gonna make this even lighter. It's really just gonna, it's supposed to be something really subtle that you can barely notice, but it's giving that nice effect. The third level of shadow, I'm gonna go inside, make this even more lighter, make this even bigger, like this. And I do try to make Y like half of blur, just something like, there's a couple of patterns that you're going to notice as you're designing and growing as a designer, and you're just going to kind of like, oh, this works. It's easy to remember it as a rule, and then you're going to kind of continuously use those things. So I'm just gonna have that in here, and I'm gonna keep this like that. I think it looks good. And then the fourth and final one, we're gonna make even lighter, and this is gonna be like 24, and this is gonna be like 12 or even 16. This is casting a really large shadow, and this is only gonna be used, maybe on 32 is gonna be fine. Yeah, this is really going to be used for the things that are very elevated and like the highest, closest to us, or highest on the z-axis. Yeah, I think the shadows look good. Again, there are plugins that you can use. You can reference material design when you're learning. So there are other places where you can learn how to create these things, and it doesn't have to be like I did. Again, with each project, you're gonna change some things around so it fits better with a project that you're working on. But I'm gonna duplicate this and call it shadows, and I'm also gonna just grab like this above all of my demos like this and call it like a shadow, or like shadow Z1. I mean, you can figure out the naming system that works best for you. I'm not gonna limit you in any shape or form when it comes to that. I'm just gonna go in here and place it like this. I'm gonna take all of the other ones out. Duplicate this one was left, and we'll just make this a little bit closer, and like let's make the spacings in here a little bit wider. So yeah, let's take the second one, replace it, let's call it Z2, duplicate it 2 more times, take this one, this is Z3, and this one is Z4. So again, some of these things are a little bit manual. I just want to show you how I would approach it, and let's call this elevation. Okay, so I think we have some foundations in place. Again, depending on your needs, you might need blurs in here. One other thing that I like to define before I move forward and kind of create things that are bigger than atoms in design systems, so like the smallest building blocks that we have, I do like to introduce icons in here. They're kind of like using spacing and colors, so it's not really a thing that needs to be here in foundations, but since I'm using them as the smallest building block of something very visual, I do introduce them in this section, and I already think about them from the beginning because I do want to pick a style that's going to work with my app, but more on that topic in the next video.